Sanjeev is a candidate for the Australian Federation Party. Some of you might have heard of him. He's the economist who resigned from his job from the Treasury Department in the state of Victoria in September 2020 to protest what had become, in Sanjeev's view, a police state. He has written a book on the COVID pandemic response of the Victorian government. The book's called The Great Hysteria and the Broken State. Sanjeev.
Dear Mr. Bob Hodges and dear friends, I thank the organizers from the Doncaster Church of Christ for giving me the opportunity to outline to you, the constituents of Menzies, why I am best placed to represent you in Australia's Parliament. My name is Sanjeev Sabhlok. I'm contesting from the Australian Federation Party, as Bob's just mentioned. Let's call it the Federation Party in short. The Federation Party is led by Peter Harris, who was the founder and chairman of Family First Party many years ago. And he has returned to politics after a gap of 15 years. Peter Harris is a fervent Christian and wants to see the return of the values which we have lost due to the woke movement that we've seen over the last few decades. For instance, our party will ensure that abortion is not treated in the manner we treat the extraction of a tooth. With a PhD in economics from the USA, I am the economic spokesperson of the party. As a senior economist in the Treasury Department here in Victoria and Melbourne till September 2020, as mentioned, I advised the various treasurers from different parties on a wide range of public policies for 15 years. Our party is a safe pair of hands. We do not tolerate extremist policies. We are committed to keeping the size of the government and taxes under control and ensuring that there is sufficient money in your pocket and that people can do their jobs. We are committed to fully costing our policies, and we are committed to listening to the people. We are committed to the ideas of reason and liberty that emerged from Christianity and which underpin the Western civilization. As I explained in an article in The Spectator a couple of weeks ago, the Western civilization has two main pillars. The first is that the government must not interfere in the life of citizens without a strong justification. And the second is that public policy must be based on evidence, not on the arbitrary whim of the government, and definitely not models, mathematical models. I've done a lot of mathematics, and it is garbage in and garbage out. Models should never drive public policy. Australia's politicians from both major parties have generally followed this due process that I've outlined. No excessive interference and proper analysis of policy. So I never felt the need to join politics. I was a happy daily commuter by bus, the 905 bus, many of you know, goes to CBD. You would find me there regularly, up and down. I had migrated to Australia in December 2000 after resigning my job as a senior civil servant in India. After taking Australian citizenship in 2005, I have mainly voted for the Liberal Party, but found nothing particularly objectionable about the Labour Party either, in comparison to India's corrupt political parties. But everything changed in March 2020, and you know what I'm alluding to. The policy system that we had developed of a risk-based, evidence-based, proportionate intervention by the government gave way to totalitarian policies straight from the playbook of communist China. Yes, COVID was a serious pandemic. Yes, we needed to take urgent measures, but these measures had to be targeted to the risk. Victoria's pandemic plan of 10 March 2020, and you can verify it on the internet, committed to a targeted risk-based approach. We needed to cocoon our elderly, that's the word used in the literature, without brutally isolating them from their families. And we needed to recommend that everyone else take due precautions. But the Liberal and Labour parties tossed out our plans and adopted Wuhan-style lockdowns, curfews, and mandatory masks. Victoria exploded with police atrocities in July 2020. I found myself serving a Labour government whose police was behaving no better than the one we had back home in India. They almost choked a young girl for not wearing a mask outdoors, by the way. A man who was not wearing a mask outdoors was hit by a police car and had to be sent into induced coma to save his life. This is all about Dan Andrews, okay? This is Labour Party. And they snatched the phone of an elderly lady sitting in the park bench. Now, I want to mention, I'm sure all of you are here in this church for a particular reason, because ethics matters to all of us. Ethics to me and morality trumps everything else in life. We had moral education classes in the Christian missionary schools that I attended up to grade 8 in India. So we've gone through a lot of moral education in schools as well. But one doesn't have to be a Christian to know that beating people up in the name of protecting their health is wrong. And by April 2020, the data itself was very clear. All models and predictions about this COVID thing being a huge thing had failed. There was no mega pandemic anywhere in the world. COVID was in the range of the Asian flu or Hong Kong flu. The country did not have to shut down. Many economists in the Treasury Department, along with me, fellow economists, asked the senior officials in the department for why we don't have a cost-benefit analysis of this particular set of policies. Our request was denied. I then raised my concerns on Twitter and expressed concerns about the police state. I was asked by the department to remove my tweets. I resigned on the spot. I resigned because I will not be silenced when innocent fellow citizens are being beaten up. Innocent, note that word. Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott wrote about my resignation in his Facebook page on 16 September 2020. I quote, "There's not a lot of courage in our public life," he said, "and there's even less honor. I don't know Sanjeev Sabhlok, but his piece in the Financial Review is a timely and potent contribution to a debate that has been stifled for far too long. He's resigned and openly published what he thinks needs to be said. Bravo." End of the quote. I then wrote a book, The Great Hysteria and the Broken State, in October 2020. A sitting Liberal MP of the Victorian Parliament, Neil Angus, has written to me about it. I quote, "I have just finished reading your book. I thought it was excellent and heartily agreed with your views. In my view, we have faced the darkest time in Australia's history due to gross government incompetence." End of quote. I then engaged with Tony Abbott and Matthew Guy in a Zoom-based international conference in December 2020 and physically met a number of Liberal MPs. The Liberal Party initially was supportive of my resignation because they thought I was only opposing Dan Andrews. But no, I was opposing the entire body of lies that this nation was being told, including by Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Mr. Morrison had compared COVID with a once-in-a-100-year event, placing it in the league of the Spanish flu. He gave his blessings to border closures, lockdowns, and curfews, taken straight from China. Now he claims, and he has claimed recently, that his policies have saved 40,000 lives. Our Honorable Prime Minister is a man without honor, without values. Recently, the world's most cited epidemiologist, John Ioannidis of Stanford University, has confirmed to me in writing that this pandemic is less than 50 to 500 times less lethal than the Spanish flu. That's what it is. We did not have to shut down the country for this. Professor Gigi Foster released a cost-benefit analysis today, a summary of that today, in which I have assisted her for the past 8 months. In that, she finds that with all the most charitable assumptions, we could have prevented potentially 10,000 COVID deaths with all these measures, but definitely not 40,000. But more importantly, she's found that these policies have harmed way more than they have benefited. We have, for example, in last year, the ABS data tell us that there were 3,000 excess cancer deaths. 3,000 extra people died from cancer in Australia last year. It's available, ABS data. Because these people were the ones who were afraid of visiting the doctors, and therefore they didn't get diagnosed in time, and therefore they didn't get treated in time. Likewise, there were 1,000 excess dementia deaths and 500 excess diabetes deaths. In addition to all these harms, there are the harms to the children. As economists, we count all things. We do not just count one thing, which is COVID. When all the harms and benefits are counted, the harms from these China-style policies exceed any benefits by at least 30 times. In fact, she says, Gigi Foster's publication today says 36 times is the total harms compared to the benefits. The Federation Party is committed to following in the footsteps of Robert Menzies. I'm very pleased to be here in his constituency, in the name after him. We want to become Australia's real liberal party, but also driven by values, Christian values. We will stop the slide into socialism and of the Liberal and Labour parties. So please keep this in mind, and when you're in the polling booth, and vote for sanity. Thank you.
Sanjeev, thank you.